So our next storyteller, the way I'm going to introduce her is, well, you might recognize her actually. Elisa was on Channel 8 News as a newscaster years ago. And she made me laugh one day because they actually have a nickname, those people that stand behind the desk and read the teleprompter, called desk jockey. I didn't know that. But Elisa's not involved in that anymore. She's a writer, a very accomplished and published writer. But the way I can best describe Elisa is that she is helping people find their voice. She's amazing at that. And one day she helped me find my voice because I was pretty down and out, living in a house in Durham, feeling pretty lonely. I called her up, we talked, I was feeling a little better, and she said, I'm gonna send you Eagle, so you know that I love you. I've never seen an eagle in Durham on my property. I walked out on my deck, I'll be darned, an eagle flew over my head. And that just speaks to her belief and divinity and connection to earth and nature. She's an amazing, amazing woman with a very powerful story. And it's my honor to welcome to the stage Elisa Boxer. I almost lost the last name.
Thank you. Everyone has been amazing. So I'm actually not that comfortable talking about myself, which is a bit of a challenge since I agreed to stand up here and talk about myself. Truly. So what I decided to do is write a letter to me, a much younger me, just out of college. Dear Elisa, you are a cub reporter on the streets of Lowell, Massachusetts, and you're about to learn something very important. That the story you set out to write is not necessarily the story that ends up being written. There's about to be a rash of heroin overdose deaths. So 4 people in a week will die. And you get a tip that these 4 men had been hanging out at a homeless shelter down the street from your newspaper. So you go to interview their friends because you think they must be scared, right? They must be terrified. The police say there's this extra pure batch of heroin that is circulating on the streets, and it stands to reason that their buddies must be terrified that they're gonna accidentally get some. So you go to interview them, and you find out that they are in fact not scared at all. Actually, they want to get their hands on it. Because if it's killing their friends, it must be really good. Their lives were that bad. They had nothing left to lose. And that became the story. Sometimes the stories you set out to write are not the stories that end up being written. You've always loved telling people stories. It's been a passion of yours. In fact, one of your proudest professional moments will come a few years later in your home state of Maine. You'll be walking up to the podium in the governor's mansion in the Blaine House, and you will look out and see a sea of hands twisting and waving in the air, silently and vigorously. Dozens of members of Maine's deaf community are there, and this is how they clap. They're honoring you for a series of reports you've done on sexual abuse at the Governor Baxter School for the Deaf. State officials knew about it, school officials knew about it, but no one ever did anything to stop it. And some of the victims will be in that audience. And through an interpreter, you will tell them, thank you for letting me be your voice. Giving voice to people whose voices would otherwise go unheard has also been a passion of yours. And then one day, Instead of telling other people's stories, you will become one. In 2003, you will have spent a year building your dream house. And you will wake up in that house the first morning completely unable to breathe, unable to move. Your chest will feel like it's in a vice. Your airways will be constricted to the point where you can't even lift your newborn son out of his bassinet. Your newborn son who is covered in head to toe, weeping, oozing, itchy eczema. He was reacting to the same chemicals that were making you so sick, the formaldehyde, the polyurethane, the new carpets, the new paint, all the new building materials, the off-gassing. A toxic soup. So in between inhaler puffs and nebulizers and steroid treatments, your journalistic instincts somehow kick in and you begin researching why you got so sick. And you will discover manufacturer safety data sheets and trade secrets and very highly paid chemical lobbyists who hide the truth. And the truth is that we live in a society that protects corporate interests, corporate profits over public health. And it will make you angry, and you will begin lobbying and testifying for safer chemical policy at the state level, at the federal level, helping to pass laws that keep those same toxic chemicals out of our homes, our air, our water, our baby products. You will be finding your voice. At one particular hearing, a chemical industry lobbyist will come up to you and ask if you want to make a deal, and you will say no. And you will hear your courage. And you will kind of wish later on that you had said yes just to see what he had to say. You will travel with moms from all over the country to a lobbying day in Washington, D.C., and you will interview members of Congress and tell them your story, and they will be the same members you've interviewed from the anchor desk and from out in the field. So you feel your story coming full circle. You will learn that people like you are known as the canaries in the coal mine. A reference to the days when miners would take the birds with them into the mines and send them ahead, and the birds would chirp, and then they would stop chirping, they would stop singing. They would die, and then the miners would know that it wasn't safe to go any further. They had to turn back around because the levels of gas had built up to a toxic level. You will discover your sensitivity on other levels as well, because the thing about sensitivity is it's not just physical. You will soften. You will slow down. You were moving way too fast before. You will begin to feel with your heart instead of always going back to your head. You will begin to feel what lights you up, what makes you expand, and what makes you contract and shrink, what stifles your voice. And you will help others do the same. You will have a son with high-functioning autism, a beautiful, sensitive little soul who the world doesn't quite understand. He has the same sensitivity and the same compassion. And one day in 2016, you will be in a fish market together. You'll be trying to pick out haddock. And he will be over at the lobster tanks, and he will call you over, Mom, come here. And you'll think, maybe he's never seen lobsters in a tank. He's a compassionate kid, that must be what no, it wasn't. Mom, you've got to see this. So you will walk over and you will see that they put the containers of crab meat right in front of the lobster tank. That's what he's saying. Look where they put the crab meat. And then he will say, They're making the lobsters look at the crab meat all day long. That is like if they put humans in a tank and made them look at chopped up monkeys all day long. And you will realize that he is a canary too. That he brings a sensitivity and compassion and depth of feeling and empathy for the suffering of others that the world needs more of. And through his sensitivity, you will see your own as a blessing rather than a burden that you so often thought it was. And many times you will wonder, knowing what you know now, would you have moved into that house? And you will know that sometimes the stories you set out to write are not necessarily the stories that end up being written. But they are always the stories that need to be told.